Hi, I'm back to demonstrate the strip method with the sugaring on my legs, and I'm not quite sure how to work the camera for this so that you can see everything, so just kind of bear with me as we go along here. Okay, so I already heated up my sugar, and you want it to be kind of able to drip, so kind of a good, almost like a honey consistency, I would say, when you're doing the strip method. When you're using the paste method, you don't want it that runny, but this helps it go on a little thinner. Okay, so let's see. So, I'm gonna show my leg there. I'm gonna start on the lower part down here, and okay. So with sugaring, you're going to want to go up against the hair, apply the sugar up against the hair. And if you have one of those jumbo popsicle sticks or cross sticks, they actually will help you go a little faster on the legs. I didn't happen to have any of those, so I'm using the popsicle sticks because I had a bunch of the popsicle sticks. All right, with sugaring with the strip method, you don't want to cover too much of your leg because you don't want it to get, you want it to stay warm. And if I were to cover all this and all this, by the time I got everything covered, it would be not warm enough. So, I'm going to go ahead and just, cover this area. Now I'm going to remove this hair and just little section by little section and kind of work, rub and kind of put some pressure into that sugar, especially going up, kind of the way you applied, to help wrap that sugar up. And then I like to get all this top area removed first before going any lower, so you have a nice clean, like now this is all clean, it's not sticky. Okay. So now this piece is getting like to a point where it might not grab the sugar or stick to the sugar very well. So I'm just going to fold it over like that so I can keep using this other section. So one of the reasons this method, I haven't done a video showing this method on my legs, is just because you do end up going through a little more product, or actually quite a bit more product. So if you're trying to conserve on your sugar, it's better to do the paste method. But if you're more comfortable with this method, then by all means, I mean, it does work really well, and it's definitely going to be less aggressive on your skin than waxing. So if you've waxed your legs before and you didn't like the results as far as maybe the redness and irritation, the sugaring might be an alternative to try. Some of the things to watch out for when you're doing your legs, if you have any injuries like scabs or scrapes, you wouldn't want to go over those. Obviously, the sugar is probably going to peel the scab off when you go over, so just kind of go around spots like that. As far as like moles and stuff, if it's a sensitive mole, I would say stay away from it, but a lot of times they're like the little raised moles or freckles. I haven't seen any problem with the sugaring because it is so gentle. It's not going to be, it's not going to like rip off a mole or anything like that. Okay, so now we're kind of getting to the back here, and my hair starts to grow sideways. So I'm going to go against the hair going this way. And when you're putting on the sugar, you want to, when you're using this method, try to put it on fairly thin. For one, you'll use less product, but it also seems to work better as far as grabbing up more hair. Okay. And if you're not comfortable doing like big sections like this, you can just do one little area at a time too. You don't have to apply the sugar all over first. For me, I find that it saves a little time doing it this way. Okay, so I put it on this way. I'm going to pull up this way. One way to hold the skin tight is to kind of squish, like kind of pinch up here, and that'll kind of tighten your calf skin up. Okay, and then that's kind of full again, so I actually have a little bit left on this strip that wasn't used, so I'm going to just use this one. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, I'm just pinching my skin over here to kind of tighten up the skin on the back of the leg. Okay. So far I've used 3 strips, 1, 2, 3. So just to kind of give you an idea of how much strips you're probably going to be using. I don't currently sell strips on my website. I may in the future, but you can go pick them up locally. You know, usually a Sally's Beauty Supply will offer them. I think Ulta sells them too. I'm not 100% sure, but you could also use like fabric scraps as well, if it's sort of like a linen type material. Okay, let me see if I can kind of move my chair so you can see a little bit better on that side. Alright, so wait a second. Alright, I want to come down. Over like that. To do your legs, the longer the hair is, the better. As far as like just the more hair seems to get pulled out. So like my hair now has been growing in for probably 2 months. I mean, this is ridiculously long. I've been actually at a length that it's like embarrassing. If I'm wearing shorts or skirts or something, I've been kind of like, oh, I hope nobody looks too closely at my legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this upper leg. I think I'm gonna start on the inner thigh. I'm just looking to see which way my hair grows. So these hairs are growing this way, and then down here these hairs are kind of growing this way. So I'm kind of divide those into different sections here. Up in this area is kind of a lot of times considered your bikini line area, but I don't have too much hair right there, so I'm going to demonstrate that. Okay, so pulling with the direction of hair. Kind of getting full. Let's see. Maybe I'll try doing this. So I'm pulling my skin tight by pulling it this way. If you're feeling like a little pain when you're doing this, or maybe extra pain, I should say, it might be because you're not pulling the skin tight enough. So just try pulling that skin tighter and see if that cuts down the pain. So these hairs are going kind of down, so I'm going to go up on these. So I was just trying to think of, like, as far as supplies, what you would need if you were going to be doing this. And I think it's just basically the sugar and then an application stick and then the strips. You could also, you might need, what was I just thinking? Not gloves, because you don't really need gloves with this method. Oh, powder. If you have sensitive skin, or you're new to sugaring, the powder does kind of help because it makes it so the sugar doesn't stick quite as much to the skin part, and so when you're first learning, that does kind of help make it easier to pull off. It's not quite as sticky. Okay, so my hands are kind of sticky right now, so I'm just going to wash my hands. So we're getting close to the end of this leg, working through it. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the front. Okay, and actually my sugar's starting to get a little thicker, so I'm going to keep that in the microwave. Just going to do 10 seconds. That should be plenty of time to kind of soften it up a little. Alright, so that looks good. And this actually feels really nice going on. That's about the right temperature if it feels kind of like a soothing heat. You definitely don't want it to feel like it's burning you, because if it does, it might actually be burning you. And sugar holds its heat for a long time. So if you do happen to overheat it and you apply it to your skin, the sooner you can get cold water on it and get it off, or just get it cooled down, the better. Just because it's not going to cool down on its own very quickly. So I definitely recommend like putting an ice cube on there or getting some cold water. Okay. So I'm holding the skin up tight up here, pulling in the direction of the hair. This part of my leg, I'm fortunate. It's mostly just very light blondie kind of colored hairs. It's not very noticeable. Unlike the inner thighs and the back of my legs are kind of more hairy. Okay. So I'll go over the side here. So here we go. Kind of smush in that sugar. I'm holding the skin up tight on my hip by pulling the skin up like that. Okay. Okay, I'm sticky again. I'm gonna wash my hands again. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the back of my thigh. There's still a little bit of hair to do there. These are growing, it's like they're growing sideways. So I'm going to go this way and then pull this way on those. It's one thing when you're used to waxing and you're used to applying and removing the opposite of this, it does take a little bit of adjustment. And if you accidentally forget and go the wrong way, you'll notice that you still pull out some hair. And sometimes you can be effective with it, but sometimes you'll just notice like a bunch of missed hairs, and for whatever reason this method works better. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this way. Very faintly in the background, I have the radio in the other room, and I can actually hear the song Sugar playing. I always think about sugaring when I hear that song. I'm constantly amazed how much more gentle sugaring is on my skin than the waxing. Like, especially this area is usually pretty tender, and had I just waxed that area, it would be just bright red, and it would be pretty painful even pulling the sugar off, or pulling the wax off, I should say. But the sugar, it doesn't even hardly hurt when I pull it off. There's just not a very strong sting. Okay, so I'm getting very close to being done with this leg. I got a little sugar in that chair. That. It's one nice thing about sugar, it just comes off with water. Alright. And then I'm actually gonna wipe down my leg a little bit. I pretty much have my knee to do, and then like a little bit underneath my knee. So I'm getting close. Right. This is a dry cloth to dry up any water residue. And actually, not my sugar is like down to the bottom of the barrel, so I'm gonna go grab another jar of sugar. Luckily, I have one on hand. Alright. So that jar was about 3/4 full. I'm thinking that 45 minutes should be enough time to make it to the right consistency. My microwave is pretty strong. So other microwaves you might want to do for like a full minute or minute and 15 seconds. Alright, so let me see. Just kind of stirring it up. I think that's going to do it. It's kind of, still kind of thickish, but as I'm stirring it, the hot spots are kind of melting the not so hot spots. Yeah, that feels good. And it also, I was just thinking that like on the outside of the container, I can hold it without feeling like I'm going to get burned. So that's another, another indication. If you're having a hard time holding on to the container, it's probably overheated. So I wouldn't even test the sugar on your skin until you can actually hold the container. Just a thought there. Okay. So going over the knee, you want to go apply up. And this does feel really nice. The temperature is like a good, it's warm but not too warm. I was really excited about doing this because I've been letting my hair grow out and just waiting for the right moment, and today just so happened that my boyfriend's at the gym, my baby's taking a nap, so I am able to get this done without too much interruption. Okay, so now I'm just pulling down in the direction of the hair. Alright, so my sugar is kind of more on this side, so I'm actually going to go to this side so I can kind of use the opposite edge of that sugar strip. Okay, so now it's getting pretty full, so I'm going to start another one. Don't want to get sugar on the computer. Okay. Now, one cool thing about the sugar strips is that you can kind of use it as a paste when it's on the strip. You can, like, let's say you see a little hair. Let me see if I can find one. Well, I don't see one right now. Oh yeah, there's one. So there's a hair right there. So I'm going to kind of work this strip around that hair and then pull, and yep, it pulled it out. So sometimes that's a little trick that you can do with your strip. There was like a few little hairs right here, so I'm going to try to do the same thing where I'm kind of working that paste around the hair and then pull. And I think I got most of those. I still see one more. And the one that's left is kind of short, so I think I'm just gonna leave that. But I just wanted to show that little technique. And that's one way to, not have to reapply more sugar. You can utilize the product that you already used and save a little product that way. Okay, so now I gotta do underneath my knee. And if you can see it, I just noticed that I do have a little mole under there. Whenever I shave, I remember nicking that mole quite often, especially when I was first learning to shave. And it would bleed, and it was just it was in one of those spots that like I wouldn't see, so I'd forget it was there and go over with the razor and be like, ooh, owie. So now with sugaring, you don't have to worry about that. No razor cuts, no razor burn. Okay. And this is a spot you really want to pull the skin tight. You can stretch your leg out. That usually helps. It's just a tender spot. It is a common spot to be bruised. So one way to prevent that bruising is just to pull the skin really tight. Okay, I think I got all the sugar. Okay, now I can see just a little bit on this side. So one downfall with doing your own legs is that you have to like kind of get in different angles, and it's a little easier when you're not trying to also get the view on camera, and you're just focusing on your own view. But all right, yeah, that sugar just comes off so nice. I tell you, when I used to wax this area of my skin behind my leg, oh my gosh, it would be sore. I mean, it would still be stinging right now. And it's right now, after doing the sugaring, there's no stinging at all. It just feels fine. If you're an esthetician and you currently are offering waxing and you're interested in offering sugaring, I would, highly recommend it. And one of the reasons is because if you do have first-time people or just people who come in and they say they've had, bad reactions with waxing in the past, they have really sensitive skin. It's just something to be nice. It's just a great tool to have in your toolbox, and just be like, well, I can use sugaring on you today instead of the waxing. And if you're using this method, it will take a little bit longer. You'll notice you can't quite do the speed thing with it because of the consistency of it. It's kind of like a thicker, stickier consistency than some of the waxes that I've worked with in the past anyway, that were made for like speed waxing. So it does take a little more time, but if you have one of those patients that just needs that extra TLC, this is a great option for them. And using this method, you wouldn't have to really learn a new method. Like, you wouldn't have to learn the paste method. You could immediately start offering this. Okay, now this leg is done, and I would be going on to this other leg. I think I'll go ahead and do it. I wasn't sure if I'd have time to keep videoing, but so far so good. So it's obviously going to be pretty much the same as the other side. But maybe just, getting different views here, maybe you'll be able to see something new that you didn't notice on the other side. I don't know. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this leg a little differently, because the other side I did a pattern where I covered the front and kind of did it in sections like that. This lower part of my leg, I'm just going to divide into sections by doing the lower half first, all the way around, and then I'll probably do this section, and then I'll do my upper section. That's a good way to make sure that you are getting all the way around the leg too, and not missing any spots. Okay, strip is full. When your strip kind of gets heavy, like if it starts to just feel a little heavy and it just feels really sticky, that's usually a time where you just have to put it aside and grab a new strip. So these are little hairs that were missed, and I'm just trying to use my seam strip to see if I can pick them up. Okay, so got that lower section done. And we'll do the next little section here. Going all the way around the leg this time, just to kind of show a different pattern option. I guess one thing to point out here, I'm just thinking about, like, my hair on the back of my legs does kind of grow a different direction, but I'm actually going to just go in the same pattern as if all the hair is growing down. So that might be, you know, one reason this particular method might not work quite as well, but sometimes it doesn't matter so much the direction. You know, especially with my hair being so long, it's definitely going to come out. Okay, so just working that sugar into the hair, pulling off. And all right, next section. Let's see. Tilt that up a little bit. Now I don't notice quite as much hair behind my leg on this leg as I did on the other leg. Kind of interesting. If you're applying the sugar and it kind of is hurting, like it's pulling on the skin, on the hairs, I was just feeling that. One thing to do to help prevent that is just to go a little slower when you're applying it. And that usually helps. Okay, see a couple hairs down here that didn't come. Those. That looks good over there. All right, so fresh strip. think taking time to kind of mush that strip in really does help you get, better grip on the hairs. Sorry, that piece is definitely getting full. Okay, so I'm holding the skin tight by pulling over this way. I'm trying to get this one where you can see it. These are just little mist hairs. I'm trying to see if maybe going up on them will grab it out. And it was working, so it's one option. If the hair doesn't come out one way, maybe try going up on it a different way. Yeah, it works out pretty well. Okay, so that one's pretty full. That aside. Okay, and my sugar is starting to get firm again, so I'm going to go ahead and heat this up for 10 seconds. And I'm going to wash my hands. And just making sure the sugar looks good there, which it does. And I'm going to go ahead and do my knee now. So since we're just kind of working in that pattern, I kind of like this pattern as another option. Just kind of work little section by little section all the way up. Yeah, I'm glad I warmed it up because it's going on a little thinner too, and so that'll when you put it on thinner, you go through less strips, because as you can tell, like a lot of times I just have to put the strip aside because it's just so heavy with sugar. Okay, so I think I'm not going to do underneath my leg because I pretty much came up like right there. So we'll just do the knee right now. All right. So pulling the strip down towards the toe. Okay. And again, this is like half used on one side, so I'm going to go to the inner leg. Alright. Looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and put that away. Alright, working the next area. Oh. Alright, I'm going to take this off. I just realized that I started going down toward, I was applying it down instead of up. Okay, so I'll just get this piece, this area off. I'm not sure why I did that. Old habit, maybe, from my waxing days. So now applying. I started doing it again, didn't I? Maybe I'm confused. All right. Alright, well this inner thigh is kind of different anyway, so change this up. These hairs are going to be going sideways, so let's just do those ones. So putting the sugar on up against the hair growth. Sometimes you do have to remind yourself. That off. And then now I'm pulling off with the direction of hair. It's coming off really nicely. Okay. Those. Alright. Now I'm going to try doing the back part of my leg. And you know what, my sugar's getting thick again. I'm going to go ahead and heat it up. Another 5 seconds. Alright. So I'm just stirring this up to kind of make sure it's all evenly heated. Okay, so checking the hair growth. These hairs are going down, so I'm actually going to come up this way and then flick down towards the chair to remove it. Okay, our strip. Good. Good. All right. So let's see, next section. These hairs are going this way. So I'm going to go ahead and come this way with the sugar against the hair growth. And if you're shorter than me, this probably won't take you so long. I just have really long legs, so I remember when I would go in and get them professionally done, the estheticians were kind of like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take a while. Extra long legs. There might be some places that charge more for height. Okay, so now just right behind the knee here. Pull the skin tight. Let me kind of look at that up close. Oh, there's still some right behind right underneath the knee. This is kind of that tender spot again, so if you're doing this area on yourself, just make sure that you have that skin pulled really tight. And stretching your leg, having your leg straight helps. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. That looks good. A couple missed hairs right here. And I'm just using that strip kind of like a paste to pull it off. Okay. And there's actually a whole section right under here. Just right here. Feel. So when you're doing this method, if you do need to go over the skin more than once, you should be fine doing that. It's the sugar is just so gentle that you shouldn't have any problem. All right, so I'm just kind of looking over. Okay, now I don't think I did this part of my leg yet, so that's, I think, the last section. This is the area that's mostly blonde on me, so it's sometimes even hard for me to tell if I don't have that part done. Yeah, and the other thing too, like when I used to wax, I could always tell where I've been because I'd be all red. And with sugaring, I don't really turn red, so I'm like, okay, where do I still have hair left? Now, if you're doing this and you have a sugar warmer or a wax warmer or something that you're using, doing this method, you would want to probably have it. I mean, you'd still have it lower than you would typically your wax, but probably about medium for the temperature. And you just would want to test it, make sure it's not going to burn anybody, but that should be a good consistency. And then what's nice about having that warmer is that you wouldn't have to keep heating it up in the microwave, which I guess if you're in a salon would be ideal. So that's another thing to think about. And I guess even that, if you're doing this at home on a regular basis, maybe it's worth having a sugar pot. I don't know. It's hard to say. The microwave is so convenient too, but you do have to kind of stop here and there to heat it up when you're doing large areas. If you're doing a small area, usually you just have to heat it up one time, and it holds its heat so well that it stays a good consistency. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm even going to heat it up a little more. It's just like getting to the bottom of the barrel, and I think with just having that more air exposure, it's cooling down. Okay. So I just see kind of like a few hairs in this area, and these ones are growing sideways kind of at an angle. So you can see how much more sugar you go through doing this method compared to the paste method. But again, if it is just more comfortable for you, by all means, this is a great, I mean, you still get the same result. The hair is getting pulled out and you get soft, smooth legs. So this is a spot that tends to have looser skin. So you do want to make sure you're pulling that skin tight so that you don't damage your, doesn't hurt your skin. I think sometimes people are surprised too how much you can pull your skin and it doesn't hurt. I mean, you can like pinch it, pull it down like pretty good and firm, and it doesn't actually hurt. And I have this mole here, and I just go right over it. I guess it used to be more raised. I actually did have it removed just to make sure it wasn't cancerous. They tested it and it wasn't, but now it's more flat. Okay, so I'm just kind of being particular here since I have the time, making sure all the hair is removed. All right. That looks excellent. So now, whenever I do my legs, just because it's such a big area, I usually just go jump in the shower afterwards to get all the sugar off. That usually saves you time. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, you can always just use a washcloth and just wipe down your legs. That usually gets a little bit of sticky residue off because there's always a little bit of sticky residue for the sugar, but water will take that right off. If you do get any of these little red bumps, I don't know if you can really see any. Let me try to get it. But every time I wax or sugar, I always get like little red bumps from where the hairs get pulled out of the follicle. That's completely normal. Usually goes down on most people within a day. Even just a few hours. Sometimes they'll just have them for a few hours. Some people, especially if it's their first time sugaring or haven't sugared or waxed for a long time, it could be on there for a day, sometimes 2 days. So just something to be aware of, like if you are going to have a special event like right away, you may want to give yourself a couple days time, so sugar yourself like 2 days before, just to make sure that all the redness and the little spots and everything are completely healed. And to make that go a little faster, you could use any type of anti-inflammatory, whether it's an internal like a Tylenol or ibuprofen, or just putting something topical on like aloe vera or tea tree oil, lavender oil. Even a lot of sunburn lotions have like aloe vera, cucumber, things to kind of cool the skin. So you can always use something like that afterwards, just to kind of speed up getting some of that redness out. But usually it does go away within a few hours, or the worst case, usually a couple days. So I'm trying to think if there's any other things to be aware of, but obviously you guys can comment on the video once it goes on YouTube, and I will be sure to answer questions, comments, that kind of thing. So try it out if this is something that you want to try, and let me know how it goes. And let me know if I missed anything, and if I did, I can always make another video in the future. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll be in touch. Thanks. Bye.